the Noble Eightfold Path. Welcome, everybody. I'm recording this from Australia. I hope you're having a beautiful day. In this presentation, I will discuss the Buddha's Eightfold Path, also known as the Noble Eightfold Path. Firstly, some background and what we do know to be accurate. The story of the Buddha's path begins some 2,600 years ago in Lumbini in Nepal, near the border with India. This is where Siddhartha Gautama was born. He went on to become a leading philosopher and spiritual leader, who we now know as the Buddha. Very little real historical information is known beyond the legends and the stories. This is because we know via archaeology that the Buddha's life story came before the invention of writing in that particular region. A lot of the philosophy that has emerged has been interpreted by different streams of Buddhism, depending on the cultural history of the countries where it took seed. The two largest traditions of Buddhism are Mahayana and Theravada. The Mahayana tradition is a common thread in East Asia and covers the largest population of Buddhists in the whole world, more than half the overall number. This includes nearly 20% of the population of China, as well as neighboring countries Vietnam, Korea, Japan, Malaysia, and Singapore. Theravada Buddhism is based in Southeast Asia and founded on the Pali Canon, which is a classical Indian language. Scholars add a third tradition, the most eclectic of the three, Vajrayana, which covers the Himalayan region of India, Bhutan, Nepal, and Tibet, and includes Tantric and esoteric Buddhism. Before I start discussing the Eightfold Path, it's important to frame it within the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths are the essence of the Buddha's teachings. These all relate to dukkha, which is roughly translated as suffering. The Four Noble Truths are the following: the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the end of suffering, and the truth of the path that leads to the end of suffering. The fourth noble truth, the truth of the path that leads to the end of the suffering, is the methodology for attaining the end of suffering, which is essentially the Noble Eightfold Path. So, just by way of context, the Eightfold Path is the path that leads to the end of suffering. Buddha placed all human behavior into one of these 8 categories or paths, symbolically represented in a Dhamma wheel, 8 spokes representing the 8 elements of the path. The Eightfold Path is considered a summary of practices leading to liberation from samsara. Samsara being the cycle of birth and rebirth. The Buddha taught that the way to achieve enlightenment and to end human suffering was to live an ethical life consisting of 8 practices: right view, right resolve, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right samadhi. The Eightfold Path leads to becoming an arahat in the Sanskrit text or arahant in the Pali text. That is, to gain insight into the true nature of existence and achieve nirvana. The ultimate destination of following the Eightfold Path is nirvana. Nirvana is the ultimate spiritual goal in Buddhism and signifies the release from rebirths in samsara. In the traditional Theravada pathway, The Eightfold Path to Enlightenment is summarized into three sections, three ways, or three states of being. They are Panya, Sila, and Samadhi. Panya is insight, wisdom, discernment. Sila is ethics or morality, essentially moral virtue. Samadhi is the mind training component, and all of these have different interpretations. But that's the core of those three sections: Panya, Sila, and Samadhi. Samadhi is a Sanskrit term to denote a state of intense concentration or absorption of consciousness induced by complete meditation. Literally translated as union, which is interesting as that's similar to the word yoga. Samadhi is the highest state of mental concentration that a person can achieve while still bound to the body, and which unites him with the highest reality. To summarize the Eightfold Path within the Theravada archetype would be Panya, which consists of right view or understanding, right resolve, right thought. Sila consists of right speech, right action, right livelihood. Samadhi consists of right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. So those are the three sections of the Eightfold Path: Panya, Sila, and Samadhi. In early Buddhism, Panya was a focal point and fundamentally an ethical path that was seen as the most important aspect to the Eightfold Path. An ignorant person is corrupted by their inability to perceive or even to know that how they are perceiving is ignorant. The Buddhist path of self-observance, restraint, and cultivating kindness and compassion was a path to self-development. The later interpretations of Theravada Buddhism see Panya as the end point of the Eightfold Path, the gaining of an ethical framework. Beyond letting go of negative states and ignorance, the Eightfold Path has come to be used as a path of developing clarity and insight into the deeper philosophical nature of reality, considered in Buddhism to be three elements: dukkha, anicca, and anatta. I've already discussed dukkha as fundamental to the understanding of the world in the Four Noble Truths, essentially translated as suffering. Anicca is impermanence, the fact that all conditions, including the self, are constantly changing. Anatta is non-self or substanceless. In Buddhism, the term anatta refers to the doctrine of non-self, that there's no unchanging soul essence in phenomena. Phenomena essentially arise and fall away, and that's it. Now, going back to the beginning, what we started discussing around the Eightfold Path, we could ask, what is the most important aspect, or what is the most important part of the Eightfold Path? When you think of starting any journey, the most important part is the first step, in this case, right view. The correct view or perception is absolutely fundamental. How you are seeing something, how you are seeing the world, how you are seeing what you're doing, how you are seeing what you're being, how you assess it, how you judge it, how you make decisions about it, how you make decisions around it, are all influenced fundamentally by the view you have. If our perception of ourselves, our situation, and our world is not clear, then we cannot have a correct intention, nor can we practice appropriate speech or engage in correct livelihood or good behaviour, ethical behaviour. It all flows on from having a proper and correct perception in place, a proper and correct foundation in place, which in the Eightfold Path is right view, which comes as number one. Perception is everything, and in some ways it's the only thing that matters. A quick summary. The Eightfold Path is the path mentioned in the Four Noble Truths, the path that leads to the end of suffering. Following the Eightfold Path leads to achieving nirvana, which is liberation from samsara. We can summarize the Eightfold Path into three sections: Panya, insight; Sila, ethics; and samadhi, mind concentration. This is the Eightfold Path: Samadhi, right view or right understanding; Sammasankappa, right thought; Sammavaka, right speech; Sammakamanta, right action; Sammajiva, right livelihood; Sammavayama, right effort; Sammasati, right mindfulness; Samadhi, right concentration. Thank you for your presence in this class, and I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you very much. Bye.